What's up, Michigan? Welcome to episode 11 of State Champs Michigan's Hangtime. My name is Lorne Plant, and we are ready to rock here on a regional week. Joined, as always, by Scott Burnstein and TJ Kelley. And we're going to get right into it because I know these guys are going to have a lot to say. A lot of commentary going to come across in this particular episode. But first off, games and clips that you can catch that aired on the State Champs Michigan Network. You can find it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search State Champs Michigan. Orchard Lake, St. Mary's, North Farmington get together. A couple of the top two teams in the state. Orchard Lake wins that one 56-44. We'll get those comments on that because I know Scott has got a lot to say about that. Muskegon and Hudsonville got together. Muskegon continues to win. They win big, 63-36. Flint, Hamady, and Saginaw getting together. Again, this is Saginaw's swan song, Saginaw as we know it. And they win 78-58. They win big. Ferndale and Warren, Michigan Collegiate, 69-50 Ferndale. We've been talking Ferndale all season long, and they are continuing their run as they make another state quarterfinal. So as we get to these guys, my first takeaway, there are no Mr. Basketball candidates left.
Zero. Zilch. I don't know the last time that's happened.
I don't either.
I mean, not to make it to the quarterfinals is amazingly huge, which could also present a wonderful let's say this press conferences at the Breslin, let's say if a couple of teams want to mention it.
You have two guys in RJ Taylor for Grand Blanc and Malik Olafoy for E-Course who are still playing, and their motivation is to show everyone that they should have been on the Mr. Basketball ballot.
Right.
And they're playing like it.
Right.
Olafoy just had another 30-point game in the regionals. RJ is just doing what RJ does.
Right.
Win basketball games.
Right. And I watched their win over Mount Pleasant. I watched their district final win over Carmen Ainsworth. And again, like everything, the importance isn't always in his stats. Like that dude is out there tipping balls. He's obviously, I mean, you can see him talking to everybody. Like he's the quarterback of that team. He's not putting up any crazy gaudy numbers. Kind of look at it like Joe Montana never put up crazy gaudy numbers while Dan Marino, Warren Moon, some of these other guys in the 80s and 90s
average 12 points a game, and basketball is considered maybe the top 2 or 3 players of all time.
But 90% of the time, and it's one of those things where I just kind of look I had to watch both games because I kind of looking why he's not on the Mr. Basketball ballot, and then I'm like, this dude you really have to focus and watch what he's doing. Yeah. Because if he doesn't do, he's the guy who's making the hockey assist for the easy layup.
Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, and he's got a whole bunch of Yari Currys and Paul Coffeys on the team.
Yeah,
So, but hats off to the teams that are still alive. Yeah. And it's gonna be a fun quarterfinal. The next 10 days are gonna be great.
Last thing I'll say, RJ already before this tournament, in my opinion, had already penciled his name in as one of the all-time greats in the backcourt in the MHSAA. Yeah. If he takes this team to the Final Four, you're just building on that really impressive legacy.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And when we talked about the Catholic League, and we did all season long about arguably being the best division in the state of Michigan, Orchard Lake St. Mary's was not the team that we probably figured. No. We were talking about them for a lot of other different reasons.
And frankly, I think it was a distraction. And they were 10-10 at the end of the regular season.
Right, and here they are in the quarterfinal. And now they've gone through the gauntlet.
They're playing probably the toughest tournament schedule possible. And Trey McKinney is a machine. I've been saying since our first episode, he's the best player in the state, pound for pound. He has a chance to be an NBA lottery pick, in my opinion. Wow. He is everything that you could ask for in a 6'5" combo guard. And I didn't see the previous couple games where he was dominating, but I watched last night in the regional final at a packed Troy High School where North Farmington was the clear favorite, and they dominated the first half. It was a 7-8 point game at the half. It felt like it was a 15 or 20 point game. And then Trey McKinney went bonkers and put the team on his back. And it reminded me of that LeBron performance against the Pistons. I think it was 06, 05, where he scored, every time down the floor, he scored. And it was just a Trey McKinney show in the second half. I question why North Farmington didn't make any adjustments to that. Their first half, they did a good job guarding him man-to-man. The second half, that slipped off, and North Farmington started to play St. Mary's game and style as opposed to dictating tempo the way they did in the first half. And North Farmington, which plays very fast, had winded Trey McKinney because he was having to do so much in that first half. And I could tell at the end of the second quarter, he was gasping for breath. Right. So you would think that going into the third and fourth quarter, you would keep that pacing, and because he was having to do so much, that would wear him out in the second half. And they slowed the game down, let him get his legs back, and then every time down the floor, he's one-on-one ISO and is either swishing pull-ups and turnarounds or drawing the whole defense in and diming out for easy buckets. So he had 26 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. It was one of the true great big game performances that I've seen in my time covering high school basketball.
And the Eagles with huge chips on their shoulders. So, you know, a lot of times that's all the motivation you need.
I don't know if I'm going out on a limb here, but I don't think if Jaden Savory and Isaiah Hines somehow made it into the lineup like we thought they were for the playoffs, I don't think they'd be here.
Right.
I think this is them having that motivation. Sure. Trey wanting to show everyone. Yeah. By the way, another motivation for Trey this week was that he didn't get Gatorade Player of the Year, which I don't see that as a slight. You know, I heard his family say, "Oh, well, Amani got it as a sophomore, so Trey should have got it as a sophomore." Well, Amani had won a state championship as a freshman. His team was 20-1. Right. St. Mary's was 10-10 this year. And if Trey stays in the state, he'll win it the next 2 years.
And from what I'm hearing, Trey is staying in the state. Yeah. I think that's great for the state. I think we're only getting better. You know, and you mentioned Trey McKinney. I mean, Cam Hudson at East Lansing had a phenomenal game last night on their win over Battle Creek Central. They advanced to the quarterfinals. East Lansing will play Muskegon, and then you look at another sophomore, Jake Chapman, who wound up hitting the game-winning layup versus Grand Rapids Christian. He's a 6'6", multi-sport athlete, with a tight end or quarterback, at Unity Christian. And so, but he's the guy that I'm watching him last night, on the video, and I'm like, this guy's got an opportunity, if he wanted to play college, but it's good to have those options. But it's great to see the state of Michigan, have sophomores who are also playing at a high clip. Yeah, we mentioned the seniors and stuff like that earlier. Obviously, we've talked about the 2024 class, but it's great to see the sophomores that are really stepping up because it just makes the state of Michigan that much better. I think it gives incentive for kids to stick around and say, hold on, I got some unfinished business. I got to go beat him. I got to go beat this guy. I got to go beat this guy. It's almost like one of those things. You got to beat everybody in your neighborhood or everybody, once you beat everybody in your own driveway and stuff like that in your neighborhood, in your community, then you can go ahead and leave and stuff like that. Maybe. But hats off to Trey McKinney putting on a great show. Todd Covert, they stuck with their plan. Not only that, you got Bug Smythe, you have Barnes, who did a great job. Barnes, he's another guy that does so much, but it doesn't always show up in the stat sheet because he's a lockdown defender.
The best player on that floor for St. Mary's besides Trey McKinney last night was Mason Wisniewski, their center, who just, I don't think he missed a shot. I think he had a double-double. Or close to it, and just did so many of the little things. And then we'll move on. But I just want to say for Todd Covert and his staff, Marcus Webster, Brad Crichton, to get this team right, Lenny. I consider him more of a stat guy, but yeah, Lenny. But to get this team focused and prepared after all of the tumult that was going on up until last week. Yeah. And to get them playing at this clip and playing with this kind of confidence. And this is the second, third year in a row where a team that finished at the bottom of the Catholic League Central has made a big run in the tournament, which shows you how competitive that conference.
Giant killers, no doubt about it. And we do want to say congratulations to U of D Jesuit Sonny Wilson for winning Gatorade Player of the Year.
Well deserved.
Absolutely. As we wrap our regional segment here, TJ, any other regional fare that you wanted to comment on?
I just think that this is a wonderful year. We've had some great games. I think that E-Course obviously losing in their semifinal last year the way they did. They have some unfinished business. I think that the Detroit, well, let's look to the quarterfinal. Detroit Loyola wound up beating DEPSA, and now now Loyola gets to play Beecher, who has been the staple of Michigan basketball, since 2011.
Yep.
And so when you talk about that, and you have to go through that gauntlet. Loyola has unfinished business after being kicked out of the tournament last year. I think Robert Lee is another one of those seniors who is out there producing at a high clip, maybe not getting the notoriety of the scholarships, that he would like. We'll see what. That's the best thing about basketball or just competition. You can go out there, you can prove it out there on the court, and hey, it's for others to see. And hopefully in college, if you get to play against a team that didn't recruit you where you wanted to go play, well, that's another time for you to go kick some butt.
Yep. All right. Cool.
Rochester Adams made history.
Yep.
First regional championship in school history.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Shout out to Jared Thomas.
Jared Thomas has come in there the last couple of years and has just kept that train rolling. First it was John Hall, then it was Brad Crichton, who's now assistant at St. Mary's.
Yeah.
And just one of the best suburban boys basketball programs in the area. Now they're taking another step as a program forward.
Yeah.
And again, just kind of like with St. Mary's, this was a team that was a middle of the road OAA red team that you could never overlook them.
Right.
But they didn't win the red. They didn't finish in the top. I don't believe they finished in the top 2 or 3 of the red.
Nope.
And they're going to the quarterfinals. And Jared Thomas has built this team, to me, exactly the way you want to build a team for the 2020s. Everybody can shoot.
Right.
Everybody can shoot on that team. Peter Kardassis has turned into a star before our very eyes. Last year, he was a sophomore that was really just a standstill shooter that would take kickouts and was a great shooter that would take kickouts. But now he has blossomed into a gunner. He's a guy that can go for 25, 30. He's had some really big games in the playoffs. I think back-to-back games. Had another big, I think he had 28 points last night. And then, you got Mr. Priestcorn, who
all-world football.
Best tight end in America, according to ESPN Rivals and 24/7. Number one in the whole class of 2024. And then you got to put him as one of the best inside-outside threats in the front court for boys basketball in the MHSAA right now, because he is locked in right now, dominating the post.
Yeah.
He can step out and hit the threes. In one of the playoff games, he had like a 28-12 game. I'm not sure what his stats were last night, but he was just doing what he does, and you got to put him up there with the best two-sport stars in America right now.
You get cases Grand Blanc with Tay Boyd. Tay Boyd going to play basketball and football at Ferris State, and he's been a monster.
And that's the matchup in the quarters.
Yes.
Rochester Adams and Grand Blanc. So Adams are going to have to make all of those shots.
It's all great for them now. I'm not saying that they're satisfied, but whatever happens now is. I'd love to see them. Pull an upset on Grand Blanc, but
nice
I'm not expecting
nothing to lose.
Right.
It's just go out there and let's do this. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Grand Blanc is a team that will have the pressure on them in that particular matchup. All right, we're going to talk more quarters coming up at the end of the show, but right now I want to set up the interview that we do each week, sponsored by the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. Our BCAM Chalk Talk this week with Hudsonville Unity Christian's Scott Sudma. This is a man who has over 40 years as a head coach in the MHSA. He's top 10 wins in the state now all time in boys coaches. He's a BCAM Hall of Famer in 2019, one of only 2 coaches to win both a girls and a boys state championship, and he's won a few boys state titles. I had the chance to catch up with him. A huge, exciting win for them over Grand Rapids Christian, then our 13th ranked Grand Rapids Christian, and they did it in buzzer style at home. I had a chance to talk to him. Here's a little of that conversation. You guys have already developed a lot of great memories from this season, and I think the seniors can hold their head high no matter what happens. But, of course, we're wishing you the best of luck, and we'll be watching.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been these kids, I can't say enough about my kids. They just gotten better and better and better and stepped it up. They're just hardworking kids. They just, blue collar type guys. And I couldn't be prouder of the group that I have. So, you know what? It'll be exciting. It's been exciting already. We've had some huge games. So it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. That's what high school sports are about, right? Is the atmospheres that are created. And, And I'm sure that's what will happen on Tuesday night as well.
All right, we thank so much for Coach Sudma for coming on the show this week. You can check out the entire conversation on the State Champs YouTube page. You can also find it on the State Champs Michigan Facebook page and our website, statechampsnetwork.com. And guys, this is a team, Unity Christian, and really kind of like Rochester Adams in the fact that they're a program, whether it's football, basketball, they got athletes, and they get it done. And now that they have finally gotten over the Grand Rapids Catholic Central hump, that was the team that had held them back over the past few years, beat them in, heart-stopping style in the districts. Now they do the same to Grand Rapids Christian. This is a team now that will have to face a South Christian team in the quarters that they lost to earlier in the year in South Christian, another program, football, basketball, soccer, dominating. Right. So, but again, what he's been able to do, and we hope he continues to do it for a long time, is lift these kids, and they're playing excellent.
Yeah, and that was the first time when watching the broadcast last night, I didn't realize that was the first time that Grand Rapids Christian and Unity Christian had played each other in 30 years. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, you would think that somewhere along the playoffs,
they're in each other's backyard.
I mean, it is one of those things like, what happened? You guys, is this the Notre Dame prep kind of like, hey, you can't play any of our teams or something like that? But at the end of the day, I think that home court advantage, definitely helped Unity Christian. I thought that TJ Fisher did a fantastic job for Unity Christian. I would have liked to see Jalen Owinga get a couple more touches in the post for Grand Rapids Christian. Donald Timms wound up playing fantastic for Grand Rapids Christian in that game. But yeah, hats off to Coach Sudma and the rest of the squad because, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they wound up holding the trophy at the end,
2 weeks. Less than
8 days, 7 days
and
after this broadcast.
They won it in 19.
With Coach Sudma, when I've watched him, his being a maestro on the sidelines, and I can't claim to know him really well or know the program really well because I'm on the other side of the state. But when I've been exposed to them, they play with such execution and efficiency and discipline, and they've got such a great community behind them. And the support that they have, and it seems like whether it's the players or the coaching staff, there's a connection. And
he's had his staff, his long-time assistant, 22 years. Right. Another guy's a former player.
So they're just like an assembly line efficiency where I just know every time they're coming down the floor, they're going to run something that's going to be really tightly tightly designed and tightly carried out. Yes. And kids are going to get good shots. Now, you're not always making your shots.
And that was the end of the game.
Right.
They held the ball for the last 45 seconds, I think it was, before they finally made their play, and it worked to perfection.
But that coaching staff puts all of their players, every time I've seen them coach, they put all their players in the best positions to have success. And that's why they've had the success as a program.
I think that that's also kids or players playing within themselves when it comes to the playoffs, because people always point to that missed free throw at the end of the game, But what about the ill-fated three-point shots or whatever was taken in the first or second quarter? What you talk about was Newski. He missed that dunk early in the first half. Versus North Farmington. And I was like, don't need that. Just get your easy 2 points. And I think that that's one of those things, only sophomores and stuff like that, but at the same time, that's one of the beauties that Unity Christian brings to the table. Those guys play within themselves. It's like they grew up with each other. They know what everybody can do. It's like they're communicating through dolphin talk.
Yeah. And look, and the bottom line is Grand Rapids Catholic Central was just that good the last few years. They could not get over that hump. When they're in your district, it just is what it is. They finally were able to exercise that demon, not literally, and here they are, and we'll see where they go. All right, we're going to close out this show. We're going to talk about quarterfinal matchups. A few that the state champs team is really focusing on that we most likely will be covering, but we could talk about any of the games that you feel are relevant. In D1, of course, Orchard Lake St. Mary's and Warren De La Salle. This was going to be an interesting one. In Division II, Chelsea still alive. Romulus Summit Academy North. This is one of these teams that's just been hanging around all season long and can easily make a run in Division II. to and win the whole thing. In Division III, Detroit Loyola and Flint Beecher. This is really the where the rubber meets the road for Loyola. I think they would tell themselves that we should be a better team than Beecher. We'll see how it plays out in the quarters. And in Division IV, Taylor Trillium and Marine City Cardinal Mooney will be getting together. Great thing about Division IV hoops is you've got schools that, quite frankly, I didn't even know who they were. There's a Kalamazoo Phoenix that I didn't even really know what was the school.
Taylor Trillium is somewhat new, I think.
Yeah, fairly new.
Taylor Baptist Park,
years.
I think, merged with someone, and then it became Trillium.
Yeah, and so here they are, you know, these schools getting an opportunity at the small school level to have a chance to play to make the Breslin
But
Center.
with Cardinal Mooney, I know we're going back, or we're starting at the bottom, but with Cardinal Mooney, the McAndrews family is a basketball dynasty at Cardinal Mooney. Whether we're talking girls with Susie Everhart, who is a McAndrews, who married an Everhart, or we're talking Mike McAndrews, who I actually played against in high school, and is just one of the best small school coaches in the state of Michigan. This is his, I believe, his second team taken to the quarters, or third, either second or third. One team he took to the state finals and they lost. He's got a really, really, really special player in Trent Rice.
Well, they get to go against another beautiful thing about the playoffs that I love, when kids have the opportunity to play on that large stage, especially in the small schools, Division IVs. You know, I think Demarion Fishburne, in my opinion, is the number one player in Division IV. I mean, he's 6'4", 6'5". He's a do-all player for them. If he played for a larger school, I'm sure that he would have plenty of offers. I just don't think that many people have really seen him play. But he's one of those guys where he can really break out. You know, obviously they have to, face the Cardinals, on Tuesday in the quarterfinal, and that's Taylor Trillium versus Cardinal Mooney. But yeah, I think whoever winds up winning it, obviously McAndrews has been there, one of the best guys, in the entire system of basketball. You can send him a message, and he's going to, he'll give you an honest answer. And
he's great.
He's great for basketball.
And when he played for his brother.
Yeah, exactly. And Division I really is wide open this year. And in the quarters, Huron and Cass Tech getting together. That should be an interesting matchup. We mentioned Grand Blanc and Rochester Adams, Orchard Lake St. Mary's and De La Salle, and Muskegon and East Lansing at the bottom.
I mean, I think right now, I think Muskegon is my kind of like, I don't want to say number one with a bullet, but a team that is playing like they got a bullet. That they're riding a bullet. Playing great basketball right now.
Have played great teams all season.
And we mentioned
Sidner, Briggs.
And I can easily see Muskegon, and I think that Briggs is another guy who kind of looks at it like I kind of got slighted for the Mr. Basketball. He's headed to Wayne State, but at the same time, he's put up great numbers. Anthony Sidner's
going to Ferris.
He's going to Ferris, but you talk about a strong backcourt. They're seniors, and then you also look at when you have East Lansing, who also got off kind of on a rocky start. The same thing as Orchard Lake St. Mary's, just a little bit above 500, after the season ended. But I talked to Ray Mitchell, their head coach, and he said us beating Rouge at the end of January in the downtown throwdown at Cass Tech. They wound up winning that game, and ever since then, he said, we've been playing with a kind of like a different focus. Guys are really starting to blend together, mesh together, and so much of it is when you strike it when the iron's hot, and that's when East Lansing as well as Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and it'd be great. If now all of a sudden you see a bevy of sophomores and juniors and be like, all right, maybe this is a preview for next year, and it just gets us talking, and just builds up the intensity looking for the 2023-24 season.
It's just crystallizing in my brain as we're shooting this. What's a very intriguing storyline in that St. Mary's Warren De La Salle quarterfinal is that despite being the defending state champion and having gone to 2 straight Division I Final Fours with Johnny Jokai, we've kind of looked past De La Salle this whole year. And when we're talking about the Catholic League, we're either talking about the drama at St. Mary's, we're talking about Brother Rice, who we thought was destined to make a run to Breslin, and then the defending state champs kind of got lost in the shuffle. So it'll be interesting to see if Trey McKinney is on a mission, that team's on a mission, and then you just have the champs, the people that they've been there before, they know how to win. They've got a lot of veterans. They got, Nino Smith, who's, I call him Mr. Big Shot, who's just hit so many huge buckets in his time for the Pilots. Mikey Salaka and you just, they're just quietly kind of laying in wait. Like, yeah, you guys don't want to talk about us. Fine, you can talk about us when we're raising a back-to-back Division I state championship banner.
And they split the season series.
Yeah.
They both beat each other once.
Yep.
So, that's going to be very interesting. In Division II, we've talked about Ferndale all season.
Yep.
This is a team, I think, who is on the precipice of doing something. They've got Goodrich in the quarters, Cadillac and Saginaw battle on the other side.
I think they're going to make it to the finals. The last 2 years, they've got tripped up in the semis.
Well, they lost in the state finals 2 years ago. They lost in the semifinal. Or no, you know what? I think it was might have been a semifinal. Both times to Grand Rapids Catholic Central.
Right.
I think that their experience this year, even though they've graduated so many players from the 2021 and the 2022 class, like you have seniors that are hungry, and we've talked about
Noah
them.
Blocker,
Noah
Chris
Blocker.
Williams.
But I think it was their experience that wound up leading them past Michigan Collegiate.
Yeah.
Now, Michigan Collegiate's got a ton of juniors, so we're probably going to see them again, probably in the same position for next year. And you remember those things.
Yeah.
And I think that for Ferndale, with Cam Reed and stuff like that, where those guys are, they're
Reed's
like,
been
you know
running
what, we want to do this, and we want to have this. We are this good, and we're believing there. I think they play as far as a unit much tighter than they have in the previous 2 years, where it was very much relying on individuals and stuff like that.
Well, Cam Reed's run the point for Juan Rickman for 4 straight years.
Yep.
So this is his 4th year. He can't be more of a veteran than Cam Reed.
And Coach Barnes is great at Goodrich, so let's not count out Gary Barnes.
Oh, Gary Barnes!
No.
Oh my God!
Absolute legend.
And this is a digression, but if you think about the players that Gary Barnes should have coached that ended up going to Clarkson over the years, guys that were Goodrich guys that went into Clarkson through their kind of like art and science back door or whatever.
Okay, right.
But he's had a ton of success, and he hasn't got to coach all of his best players, kids that were from Goodrich.
Yeah, well, here you go. That'd be a huge win if they can get that. Yep. The bottom of D2 is really the most interesting bracket because anybody can do it. Hudsonville Unity Christian, we've already seen what they've done. Grand Rapids South Christian has been unbelievable this season, beating everybody. Chelsea is one of these teams that you just don't know what you're going to get. Like, they have stepped up. And Summit Academy North.
Summit Academy North, Mark White, building a superpower there, and it has not taken that long.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, when he got that job, I want to say it's almost like the same thing as Mike Thomas. Like, I give Mike Thomas a call, and when he got the job at Kalamazoo Central, I was like, you're on a state title in the next 2 years, Winds up winning the state title. He winds up going and changing things around at Grand Blanc. Nobody knew of Romulus Summit Academy prior to Mark White being there. Now he's leading the Dragons to a lot of success. But they're taking the stairs. They're not taking the elevator to get there. They've had to play they've had to beat. Their league is pretty tough. They've had to battle Michigan Collegiate, so they've been there. Want to finish and runner up to the Charter Conference. But Mark White. It's hard to count him out. Arguably the top coach.
What's Dantes' last name?
Oh my goodness, killing me.
They have a kid who I
Scott.
really like, Dantes Scott,
Yep.
who is a guy to look for going forward in these next couple games.
And just finally, in Division III, I want to make sure that we give them a little love. Loyola and Beecher, we talked about already, but Langsburg and Ecorse is the other one. We talked about Ecorse. St. Ignace and Traverse City St. Francis will be getting at it. And Pewaukee Westphalia back in the quarterfinals, taking on Niles Brandywine.
Zach Woodruff is a kid at Langsburg that I've been fortunate to watch. I think I was watching Jalen Owinga and Nate Johnson on one court during the AAUC grassroots season, and then I'm watching on the other court this kid, skinny kid, 5'9", probably like that, and playing 15 and under. And I was like, this kid, you kind of look at it where you see Jim Rats, and Zach Woodruff is definitely that kid. He's 6 foot tall now, but I think he had 30 points in their win last night. But yeah, he's one of those guys where he's a breakout guy, only a junior, and so I love talking about this 2024 class just because it's so deep, and we'll see what Woodruff and Langsburg can do in that one.
With St. Francis, Wyatt, I'm going
Nositis.
to butcher his last name. How do you pronounce it?
Nositis.
One of the best quarterbacks in Northern Michigan on the football field, and one of the most dynamic point guards in Northern Michigan on the basketball floor.
Talk about chip on shoulder.
Yeah. And he's the type of, like, for the smaller schools, to me, he's like a Trey McKinney in the sense that he can take you on his shoulders.
Yeah.
and lead you to the promised land.
Yeah, well, after losing in football, they're going to want that
Yeah.
in basketball. So, and in Division 4, just so we make sure we give them equal time, Painesdale Jeffers, who we mentioned before, they are in the quarterfinals. They'll be taking on Munising. We mentioned Trillium and Marine City Cardinal. Frankfurt and Hillman are getting at it, and Tri-Unity Christian, it seems like this is a routine for them, that they are always making deep runs against, again, I believe, the new Kalamazoo Phoenix.
Yeah, well, you talk about systems. I mean, Tri-Unity Christian, what Keeler's done, for the last 15, 20, longer, obviously been there longer than that. But to have the opportunity to win, championships in different decades, that's huge. You lose Brady Titus, who's at Indiana Tech.
One of the
and
all-time great
then you come along
players.
and you're running along like you are now with another opportunity to go to the Breslin, and it's one of those things. I think they just start naming chairs and stuff like that after a while. Now, would you like to step in the Mark White chair? Would you like to step in the Keeler chair? But it's a great thing. Hopefully, that winds up happening. But I really like all the matchups and what could become
Frankfurt,
when we're talking next
a lot
week.
of shooters. Yeah. A lot of good shooters and tough kids.
All right, we're gonna have a lot to talk about next week. I do want to, before we go, I live in Northville, so I want to give the boys a shout out. They couldn't keep the magic going. They lost to Ann Arbor Huron in the regionals on Monday, but all 3 district games they won in overtime in the districts, beating Novi, then Detroit Catholic Central, and then Canton respectively.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. 3 overtime wins for those guys. That's magic. That's what makes March fun. And I know that they weren't expected to kind of do that, but when you do something special like that, they'll always remember that for the rest of their lives.
You think of Northville for football, for baseball. You don't always think basketball. But it's a great gym. It's a great community.
Those are 3 great wins. So, because Canton had a good team this season,
really good,
and they could have made a run. And Detroit Catholic Central, again, the competition they play, right?
Yeah.
So, we could have been talking about them. Yeah. So, anyway, good on them. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here again. Guys, we're going to reconvene next week. We will try to get to a Final Four and championship prediction show next week. We'll see how the schedules work out. We'll have to work those details out, but we know that quarters are up next. Good luck to all the teams still competing. We'll see you next week here on Hangtime.
State Champs, Michigan's Hangtime is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Visit LTUathletics.com and recruit yourself. Hangtime is also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Army National Guard, a proud partner of the MHSAA. The Detroit Athletic Club Foundation's Athlete of the Year Awards. Applications being accepted now through March 6, 2023 for the male and female high school Athletes of the Year. Check out previous winners and download the application today at dacathleteoftheyear.com. And the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. Find out more at bcam.org.